House Republicans continue their quest to elect a speaker after the historic ouster of Kevin McCarthy. Jim Jordan facing an uphill battle now in securing the 217 votes needed to win House Speaker. Jordan's nomination coming after House Majority Leader Steve Scalise dropped out of the race. Here to discuss the latest is Semafor domestic policy and politics reporter Joseph Zeballos-Roig. So, Joseph, let me start there with Jim Jordan. You think he's going to be able to secure the 217 votes he needs, Joseph? Does he throw in the towel? What do you think happens next?
So that's a $1 million question that's now flowing through Capitol Hill. As of now, we have been told by Jordan's office to expect at least one more round of speaker votes today. That could come later this afternoon or early evening. It's hard to tell. I think that a lot of the Republicans I just talked to, Republican lawmakers and aides, they were surprised by the extent of the opposition against Jordan. One member told me, Representative Kevin told me that he had expected up to 18 Republicans to vote against Jordan. Ultimately, 20 voted against. So this was actually a worse outcome than many in the party expected. And then another Republican described the state of Jordan's bid as shaky at best. So it's kind of a coin toss right now to see how much longer Jordan can go. I mean, there is definitely the case to be made that he could attempt to negotiate with some of these Republican holdouts to see if he can sway them. He has been trying to do that already. But then the other case to be made is that this is actually like a worse outcome than many expected, and that it's basically if he goes one more vote and then loses even more Republican on the second ballot, then basically his candidacy will be in a very weak position and won't be able to recover.
Joseph, how did he? I mean, it's interesting that you said one of the lawmakers was surprised at the extent of the opposition against him, because last week the guy didn't have a chance, right? So maybe it was surprising, the opposite was surprising, that he had managed to get this many people to actually come over and vote for him. How did he do that? And what happened? What sort of crumbled here?
That's very much a fair point. It was just last week that we saw 55 Republicans and a secret ballot behind closed doors say that they would never vote for Jordan on the House floor. Obviously, that's been cut down to just under half. There are now 20 who are still opposing Jordan. And I think he made a lot of calls over the weekend, just basically trying to address members' concerns on whether it's issues like providing military aid to Ukraine or funding the government. I think he was able to make some headway with Republicans who are on the fence, but clearly he has not won over everybody. Now it's going to be a test of whether these members, many of them who have been here for many years, are able to experience firsthand Jordan as a House member. He employed many scorched earth tactics on Obamacare. He also was a key player in the 2019 government shutdown over Trump's border wall. I think it's going to be a test of whether moderates want to be beaten into submission by Jordan. I think it's remains to be seen whether Jordan can really assuage these people when I'm also starting to hear that more Republicans might actually come out against Jordan on a second ballot.
And Joseph, there are of course some big issues front and center right now: war in Ukraine, war between Israel and Hamas, our border. Can the House get anything done, Joseph, without a speaker? I mean, can it function?
The House without a speaker is essentially paralyzed. It can't function like the institution like the ordinary institution that we're all familiar with. Right now, Speaker Pro Tempore Patrick McHenry is in charge. His main responsibility is to oversee the conduct of a speakership election. But we're starting to see more appetite among some Republicans and even some Democrats too that, should this speaker race drag on longer than we all expect, which is very much a real possibility at this point, that he should be empowered, that the House should be able to pass a measure that would allow Speaker McHenry to bring certain bills to the floor. For example, maybe a resolution on Israel or even military aid, that would basically allow the House to actually pass bills and conduct other legislative business. So the longer that this speakership drama does drag out, I think you're going to see a growing appetite among members in both parties that Speaker McHenry should be allowed to take like a greater role in overseeing the House and its conduct, while House Republicans sort out the mess that they've thrown themselves in by ousting Kevin McCarthy,
Joseph,
their
why
former
not?
Speaker.
Why don't they just make McCarthy the guy? Or McHenry, excuse me. Why don't they just make McHenry the guy?
Yeah, so this is a question that I've posed to a couple of Republicans. I think most just want to actually just vote for vote for a speaker, whether it was, whether it was Scalise or Jordan, and then move on. But there's another interesting perspective I heard just a couple days ago from an appropriator, a Republican appropriator, that, the House really does find itself in an unprecedented situation. The House has never before ousted a speaker. We've never had a speaker pro tempore that's just been charged with like being like a caretaker of the House. So another concern I've heard is that, anything McHenry does could be challenged in the courts by, opponents of certain measures that, Republicans may want to act on. So, there's a question of how legal, empowering McHenry might be, but I think you're going to see appetite among Republicans and Democrats to do that very act if House Republicans can't go ballot after ballot, and we still find ourselves in this very same mess.
And Joseph, let me get you out here on this question. Let's say Jim Jordan secures the speakership. Is it more or less likely, Joseph, we would then have a government shutdown?
I think that a lot of us are still trying to figure that out. Some of the holdouts for Jordan are actually Republican appropriators who, at least one of them, Steve Womack, has said that he and others are concerned that, they've been writing these spending bills at levels that the Senate, the Democratic-led Senate, was never going to accept. So I think that, there are some Republicans who've been here for many years who just want to stick to the original funding levels that the former Speaker McCarthy agreed to with the White House back in May. Depending on Jordan's legislative, trajectory, he has, like I mentioned before, he has been a key player in another government shutdown. He is viewed it as a legitimate bargaining tactic to achieve a conservative outcome. I think it's very well possible you could, see him fail to corral the forces he's unleashed in his own party, particularly those who've been pushing for steep spending cuts to, domestic, safety net programs, rural aid, nutrition assistance, housing assistance. You could be put in a position where, he says that he's able to control them, but then very much fails to, and then we all find ourselves in a government shutdown in about a month.
Joseph Zeballos-Roig, thank you for joining us today. That was great insight. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.